Before I even start today's episode of the Real Estate Crowdfunding Show, syndication in the digital age at gowercrowd.com, I'm going to recommend that you stick around until the very end of the episode today, where, off record, but with her permission of course, my guest today, Allie Mills, Digital Marketing Manager at IMS, told me about her background. It will blow you away. And it will help explain how it is that she is such an amazing font of knowledge, as you're going to hear today. Hi there, Adam Gower here, and I am delighted to welcome you to the show. Today's episode has been a long time coming and certainly has been worth the wait. I worked on an amazing project with the team at IMS, which stands for Investor Management Services, on waterfalls, and I'll include a link to the resulting white paper from that work on the podcast page for today's episode at gowercrowd.com. If you've not seen the white paper, it is an absolute must-read for anybody raising money or investing in real estate online, so be sure to download it there at gowercrowd.com. So check this out. IMS provides the back-end, what I call the back-end platform, to any investor acquisition system. What we here at GowerCrowd build are the digital marketing systems that drive traffic to your site, build a relationship with prospective investors, and then tease them up to invest with you. But once they invest and money starts to change hands, that's when IMS comes in to handle the mechanics of the investment itself. Now, I didn't ask Allie until deep into our conversation about IMS, actually, but to contextualize it for you, they have 550 sponsor customers on their platform, over 50 billion in equity managed on the platform, and over 85,000 investors in nearly 100 countries interacting with their platform, right? So really, these guys really are major players in real estate syndication. If you'd like to find out more about them and about Allie, my wonderful guest today, and about how you can build your own investor acquisition system so you can raise money for your own projects, go to the podcast page at gowercrowd.com and check out the whiteboard workshop that I put there for you as well, that walks you through the entire investor acquisition system that we build for clients so you can build one yourself. All right, now it is my great pleasure to introduce you to Allie Mills, whose humble title, Digital Marketing Manager, belies the extraordinary depth of knowledge and consummate professionalism she clearly possesses. In fact, if she told me she was Chief Executive Officer at IMS, I wouldn't have doubted it for a moment. Anyway, find out for yourself. Here she is. My great pleasure, Allie Mills, Digital Marketing Manager at IMS. Allie, thank you so much for being on my podcast. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the invite.
You're welcome. And, as you know, I've done quite a lot of work with IMS.
Oh, yes.
And have enjoyed that very much indeed. We got in some very, very deep, sophisticated levels of understanding what waterfalls are. But I wanted to talk to you obviously about something very different. Today we're going to talk about digital marketing. And the first thing I wanted to ask you, so here's what I'm aware of. I know that you guys do webinars because I've been on one, right? So,
yes.
I know that you have a really good newsletter, but I also know that you have an enormous network of customers and clients and et cetera, and that I only see a tiny part of your entire program. So before we start, just kind of give me a broad sweep, what it is at IMS, like what does the digital marketing landscape look like at IMS?
Absolutely. And as a digital marketing manager, we have a really robust digital footprint. And it's really cool for me to come in and really be able to identify what we're doing, and really put that strategy together. So to kind of put it in the easiest way possible, as you've been accustomed to and seen, we do the webinars and the newsletter and ebooks. We put out a lot of thought leadership, and that's really from that product marketing standpoint to really engage and delight our current customers. But we also do a lot of, which is primarily my role, a ton of paid search. I do a lot of organic search engine optimization. We do a lot of paid social. Is really making sure that if there's anyone out there who needs a software solution, especially with real estate, if they're looking for it, I want to make sure I put our name right there first and foremost. So we break it up into marketing for the prospects and then marketing as well towards our current customers. Because it's really not enough once you get customers in the door and they're signed up. You really need to make sure that you keep them engaged and excited about the product. But then also our product is a huge solution for a lot of people. So as we roll out new updates and new product releases, we also push out a lot of content about that, just to make sure that our current customers can take this platform and run with it. And we also see ourselves as a thought leadership business in the industry. So we have a ton of brilliant minds here who are putting out content, anything from, 2020, what does real estate look like, all the way to, I read one last week about micro apartments and how those are actually, picking up a lot of traction, especially in the South. So we have a very, very robust digital landscape, and it is just so fun and fascinating to really go through and dive in head first.
So Allie, I have to tell you, I know that when somebody speaks, because I do a lot of transcribing and content production from, conversations, I know that we speak at around 150 words a minute. So I'm figuring that you actually spoke for about 3 minutes, which is about 450 words. And I have to tell you, I have about 450 questions as a result of that.
I am so sorry. I talk so fast, and it's been something that my entire life I've been trying to work on.
No, it's wonderful. It's absolutely fantastic because you've hit so brief, so quickly, so many core components of an effective digital marketing campaign. So if I can, I was trying to type some of these down while we were chatting. Let's go back and talk about a couple of those. Let me start at the top. The first was, you very casually mentioned that you create content. So let's dive into what that process actually looks like. How do you actually do that?
Absolutely. And we take a couple different approaches just to make sure that we're putting out content that people, one, that they want to read, and two, that's going to be helpful. Because the last thing you want to do is think you put out this fantastic piece of content and it turns out that no one really cares about or no one really needs that information. So we go through and do a lot of just keyword research to see what people are searching for and what that volume looks like. We also talk a lot with our relationship management team and our support team and ask them what are some trends that clients are bringing up or questions people have, but also just keeping an eye out for the industry and where our product's trending to. We have a phenomenal marketing team over here, and they are absolutely rock stars when it comes to content creation, because we take it from every single angle, anywhere from if we have a prospect who works in multifamily, we'll put out a lot of multifamily content, but then also content about storage units. A lot of people don't realize that's a huge market for commercial real estate. So really trying to make sure that if someone is looking for the content and if they want to know it, we'll provide them that information with a lot of strategic research on our part.
So you do keyword search, which is SEO.
Yes,
Right. And so describe that process a little bit. I mean, that's obviously a huge rabbit hole we could go down. But we do that as well. I find it incredibly powerful. I also really like, you didn't use the term, but the FAQ approach, right? What are people actually asking on a regular basis at the sharp end? But describe just briefly what the keyword research side of it looks like. How do you do that?
absolutely. So kind of put it to a broad example. If I have a question about something, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to ask the Google machine, to put it colloquially. So I like to go through and see the queries that people are asking Google about related to commercial real estate to really understand what that need looks like. And there are a lot of fantastic tools that can give me the keyword, really what that data looks like, what the volume is. You can also hop into the Google Ads platform and run those same keywords and see what Google Ads, which is that pay-per-click tactic, to see what the monetary value is on these keywords. Another great way to use content to really boost up your online presence and drive leads. For example, if there are keywords that cost you an absurd amount of money per click, and that if we don't want to spend that much, we can always build up organic content around that keyword, organically rank for it, and that way we put out content that we know people need, but we also did it making sure that we're the best stewards of our budget.
Yeah, exactly right. So a keyword is used, you would pay for keywords when you advertise, but if those are found organically because you've written good content around them, then the traffic that you generate organically, you can actually put a dollar value on that.
You can. So, for example, if we are having, several people navigate to the website and they found the website based on that one keyword, I can actually look and say, hey, we got these clicks for, little to no budget because we didn't pay per click. We got these organically. And another really good way of looking at that is as you build up search engine optimization, and we build up authority around those keywords and authority around those topics, and we're proving to Google that, hey, we know what we're talking about. You should show people our responses. All that does is just really boost up our overall authority online. And we really have that, that just dominate the market in general. So
Yeah.
it's really making sure we put out content that people want to read and that it's useful.
Yeah, fascinating. And then you mentioned that you use Google Apps, which presumably is you get free access to that, but then you also use paid services as well?
Yes, sir. So I use the Google Ads paid service platform pretty heavily. We run a pretty robust pay-per-click campaign or paid search. So I run those out and just put those on Google. So if people are searching for these key terms, and I know for sure that they are looking for our services, our ads will pop up either 1, 2, or 3, and it's just, hey, that quick response, like, hey, you have a question, you have a problem, here's a company that can solve it, and then it turns out to be IMS.
That's really interesting. So just curious, like what would somebody, just give me an example of the kind of search that somebody would run that would be uniform across the real estate industry, but that would say the answer they need to get is IMS. Like, give me an example of what that would be.
Absolutely. And that is such a fun question because this answer will change probably weekly and monthly just based on volume. So for example, we get a lot of searches for automated waterfall distributions, which is such a fascinating portion to our software. I got to sit with some developers and it's beautiful. And just see, it is absolutely like my little nerdy heart. It's just people, hours and weeks back into their life. So we have a lot of people searching for waterfall distributions or automated. And then I want to make sure that our ads pop up either 1, 2, or 3 for that. And that way I want to make sure that, hey, you're looking for a way to automate waterfall distributions. We can do that for you.
Fascinating. Okay. Yeah. And presumably that was what I told you that we told at the beginning, right? That was the whole subject of what we worked on. Yeah. It's really fascinating area. All right. So now let's chat a little bit about the actual process of producing content, right? So we understand that you've got some concepts, right? You understand, or you've derived some ideas from your frontline people who are dealing with customers, and those customers and prospects are asking questions. So there's your FAQs, right? So we know we want to answer those, and you're doing some SEO research. What is the process that you employ to actually produce the content?
Absolutely. And so content is so we're putting out probably about 2 or 3 pieces of fresh content each week. So we definitely have streamlined that process substantially. So a lot of times, about once a month, the team will sit down and say, let's just brainstorm some blog pieces or some content pieces. And we'll just start spitballing and just throwing different ideas out there. And a lot of that we're pulling from, reading world news, what's going on in the world, what's going on in commercial real estate, what's going on with the finance industry, just making sure that we're looking at that from a holistic standpoint and making sure that we have a list of topics that make sense and that we know that people are interested in and that we've seen really picking up traction in the media in general. So we'll put that list together of just ideas. And then from there, we're very lucky that we have a room of just pure industry experts I mean, we have people who have been working in the commercial real estate industry for 20, 25 years. So luckily, they are a wealth of knowledge. So we'll sit down and have meetings with a couple of colleagues, be like, hey, here's what we're thinking about. What are your thoughts? Here's what we're seeing. And 9 times out of 10, they'll give us a new angle to approach a topic that's fresh and exciting and will really draw people in, but you're still getting that core information and those core resources that you need. And then from there, a ton of research goes into the actual topic itself to make sure that we don't sound like we don't know what we're talking about, because the last thing you want is for Google to see you as an authority. And then if our quality starts dropping, well, then Google will say their content's dropping, their rank's dropping, they're probably not who they used to be. We'll just keep pushing them down. So it's paramount that everything has to be just good quality content. We also want to make sure that we don't duplicate any content, because duplicate content is definitely a huge no-no when it comes to search engine optimization. But then also, as the consumer, if I'm seeing the same company put out the same content over and over again, but tweaking a few words here and there, as a consumer, I would wonder, why aren't you coming up with fresh ideas? And that would take away some of that. I use authority a lot as a marketing term, but as consumers, if we start seeing that, content quality is dropping, we lose faith in a company, and then their authority in our eyes drops. Does that make sense?
It does, and there's quite a challenge actually to that, or you got to approach it with some finesse, right? So let's say you've got you say 2 or 3 a week. So in the course of a year, you have enough new content for 1 a day, or approximately, a new piece of content every single day. But when that content goes out on, let's say, on LinkedIn or on Twitter, or wherever you distribute it, only a very tiny proportion of people who are in your prospect universe will see it. So why not actually represent that same content every 3 months, for example? Because you know that each time it shows up on social media, a whole different group of people are going to see it.
Absolutely. And that's a great question, something that we've really run into, because there are some topics up there that will just never go away. For example, commercial real estate best practices. That's something, that topic will never go away. But it's all about fine-tuning that and reworking that and taking it from a different angle. But then also, in all reality, if we're putting out content and 3 months later, people are still trying to research that same topic, I would wonder, was our content not high quality enough? Did it not answer enough questions? Did we not, put it on the web as well as we should have? There are some topics, absolutely, that will really never go away, and that will definitely refresh. But the big idea is that you want to make sure that the title itself of the article is a little different, but also making sure that you're putting in new ideas and fresh ideas and content that you have kind of recycled and pushed out. You just want to make sure that everything is fresh.
All right, so let me approach this now from a slightly different angle. And the first thing we chatted about offline before we started was this idea of translating or translating complex ideas to a broad audience, right? So we'll get to that in a minute, but you've described the process. Actually, I did want to ask you, gosh, before we get to this. So now you've got these brainiacs internally, and you do some great research, and then just how do you actually produce it? Do you have writers internally? Do you have a studio that you film stuff like we're recording on a Zoom call? Like, what's the mechanism, the production mechanism, if you like?
Absolutely. So we have an absolute rock star marketing coordinator named Amber, and she is just a blog writing, content writing master. She is fantastic. So she'll go through and put the actual content together. And then myself and our product marketing manager named Jenny will go over and we'll proof everything, read over it, add things if needed, just making sure that we fine tune that. If there are topics that are a little more difficult, we'll even have someone on support go over and read it and ask, hey, if you were a client and you read this, does this make sense to you? Just making sure that we are speaking to our audience and asking the people who talk directly to our audience, which are the relationship managers and support. So we have a really great in-house process. We don't send any content out for like to white label content. We do it all in-house.
Fascinating. Okay. And most of what you produce, Allie, is written content, is it?
Yes, sir. We do a lot of written content, probably about 2 blog posts per week, excuse me. White papers are very popular as well. We put up a lot of ebooks as well, just to make sure that, our current customers have that ongoing training. Just make sure that everyone is totally happy and engaged. And at the end of the day, what we have is a software solution. And if our clients and customers are confused or not given the resources to understand it, then we did them a disservice. So that's why we have a huge focus on making sure that if someone wants the content and wants to learn about it, we'll write it for them.
All right, so connect some dots for me. So IMS's mission, ultimately, the business mission, is to recruit users of the software, right? Basically, investor management services, or the system anyway, right? So that's
Yes.
the idea, is to use that. So in creating content about trends in multifamily housing, or automating waterfalls is a direct function of the software. So I can see how talking about that would be relevant. But how do you connect the objective of the company, which is to recruit users of the software, to an article about multifamily trends, for example? How do you create that frictionless line to the sales, point of sales, if you like?
Absolutely. And that is a great question. It's something that is very fun to figure out. And it's really, I probably use the word fun way too much, but at the end of the day, the commercial real estate industry, it's always changing. There are new trends coming and going. And with IMS, our platform and our software platform, we pioneered this. We were the first commercial real estate platform out there, like software platform. So we know that our readers out there are highly engaged in the industry. They want to know the ebbs and flows, what it goes up and down, similar to how a stockbroker would keep an eye on the stock market. They want to know what's going on and what to expect. And if we can put content out there to give them an expectation of, hey, in 2020, here's what's happening and here's why you need, a CRM to keep track of everything, we like to tie it back to how our product helps them with those trends. So a lot of that is, hey, we're seeing, I read an article actually earlier this week about how in the next couple of years, there's going to be a lot of baby boomers who their homes in Florida are going up for sale. That's a huge trend happening. And I know a lot of millennial investors are really starting to kind of chomp at the bit to start investing. So we know that's a trend. We know that's coming up. So we can write content geared towards millennials and really highlight how we grew up around technology and how this platform can help them reach their goals.
I get that, but how do you then use a piece of content like that to convert somebody from an interested reader into a client of IMS?
Absolutely. So we will put out content for, this sounds like more like prospect content. So if we're writing this content for prospects and we know that's our audience, that differs a lot from the product marketing going towards current customers. So for example, with prospects, we want to go out and highlight pain points. We know that you probably have a ton of contacts that you don't have organized. We know that you're probably losing months and hours, in Excel. You're probably losing money left and right. So really highlighting those pain points and explaining why we can solve those and giving examples of how we have solved those. So a lot of that comes with case studies. You'll see that a lot with different white papers that we put out, just making sure that we understand that there are a lot of pain points out there and we want to highlight those and then give you a solution for and really tie that in together.
So you've made a very interesting point a couple of times, and that is, excuse me, that your content machine caters to two audiences, in fact, doesn't it? It caters not only to bringing in prospects, but also to your current customers. So talk to me a little bit about the benefits of having a content production machine as it pertains to both of these different audiences?
Absolutely. And when it comes down to it, content is king. You definitely have to have a really solid content strategy. So when we're working on it from a current customer standpoint, in all reality, if someone is trusting us with such complex calculations and they're trusting their firm on our platform, we want to make sure that we give them every resource possible and then some. So really, I think HubSpot uses this term a lot, is to delight your audience and to delight your users. That's exactly what we want to do. On a couple of fronts. First and foremost, if they're happy with the product, then we did our job right. If they give these resources, but also, referrals. A lot of our clients are big leaders in the industry, and if they're really happy with our product, and if we're giving them these resources, there's a good chance that they're going to refer us to their friends as well. And that you really can't get higher praise than that, than having someone say, hey, I trust IMS with this data and they've done a great job with it. We're totally happy. Why don't you try them out? Like, for us, it doesn't get much better than that. So really making sure that we're delighting them, keeping them engaged with our teams, then also making sure that we can get referrals, from happy clients. And on the prospect side, you want to make sure that it's a little bit trickier on the prospect side, because we got to keep up with what people are searching for, what information they need to know. And for me, I focus a lot on demand generation. So I just did an absolute crash course in commercial real estate to understand the jargon and what people do and what different words mean. So there's a lot of research that goes into it. But for any business, you have to have a consistent and strategic content strategy laid out for you. You really want to make sure you're marketing towards your current customers and your prospects.
Right. So let me ask you this question. Scale. I forgot to ask at the beginning. I will put it into the introduction that I will record separately, Allie. But just tell me about the size of IMS, right? I remember talking to the guys before when I did the waterfall project, but just remind me, how many customers and how many investors do you manage? Just kind of give me, or give listeners a real sense of who you guys are, just briefly, and then I have a follow-up question.
Absolutely. So we are looking at 550 plus clients on the platform. I know we currently have, the last number I saw was $53 billion in equity raised on the platform. I know that for 2019, coming to an end, we're already trending to surpass that. So we're definitely a pretty large company.
And how many investors do you suppose?
Ooh, it's probably, I want to say there's probably in the tens of thousands. I'm not completely sure on number of investors.
Okay. All right. So really huge platform. So one of the biggest, so my business is assisting developers find investors, right? So it's basically, we cater to the same exact market, but we provide a different angle, right? Basically, I'm the kind of pre-conversion. You sit after somebody has decided to invest and kind of crossed over that conversion line, whereas I sit all the way before that, right? Before somebody even knows that they want to invest with a sponsor. So to what extent, what are the biggest challenges that you find developers have? I mean, how sophisticated are they in the kind of things that we're talking about now in terms of digital marketing?
So you mean developers on the software side or commercial?
No, I mean developers as in people that put bricks together and paint walls and lease spaces.
It's fascinating to really try and change these very industry jargon terms down to what people are normally searching. It's kind of going back to that natural language. And it's kind of an ongoing challenge for me to make sure that, one, we divide up our market in different personas. So who in the company would be using our platforms, making sure that we market towards that. But at the end of the day, if someone doesn't understand what a Reg D offering is,
Right.
it's going to be a very tricky marketing. So it's really just putting in just talking to people the way that I guess they would want to talk about a product. It's very tricky, especially with something as difficult as commercial real estate. But I think slowly but surely people are getting more savvy with the jargon.
Okay, so hang on a sec. I think you answered my question, but let me try and rephrase it slightly.
Sorry about that.
No, and I'm pretty sure you did, but I'm not entirely. So what I was getting at was how let me put it this way. Are developers, real estate developers, aware of and familiar with digital marketing? That was the question, actually.
My apologies. I definitely think that they are becoming more aware of digital marketing, especially going into 2020.
And okay, and so your answer was actually came at it from a different angle, didn't it?
Yes, sir.
Right, but the point that you were making was that no matter what you're trying to discuss with a prospect, you can't assume that they know anything at all about the subject that you're talking about, right? That's kind of the point, right? In other words, this is where we started. The idea of taking a very complex concept that you understand intimately and understanding that the person that's listening to what you're saying maybe doesn't understand anything at all about that, right? So when you put together your content, some of it is very complicated. So how do you, what's the approach that you take to explaining complicated ideas without patronizing or talking down to your audience?
Absolutely. Because last time I checked, I don't think anybody wants to feel talked down to or anything in articles. So it's really important to make sure that our voice and our tone is more of, hey, we're just talking to you, person to person, not trying to talk down. So a lot of that we can tackle with our tone. But then also a lot of times we'll put in examples, infographics are really helpful. Similes and metaphors are great to use when trying to explain really complex items. There are a lot of different just literary kind of approaches we can take just to make sure that people, one, if they don't understand the topic, they do now, but then also, and it's in a way that is new and creative, not just definitions and having an appendix on an article.
Exactly right. So what are the biggest challenges that you face in terms of, again, from the digital marketing perspective? And what are the hardest, the biggest challenges that you face?
Absolutely. So I think probably some of the biggest challenges are, like we've talked about a good bit, is just really trying to stay on top of the industry and the terms and all of the new legislation and really keeping up with the market itself. Because what's fascinating about commercial real estate, I guess real estate in general, is that every single person has been affected by commercial real estate at some point. If you've lived in a multifamily, if you use a storage unit, if you've gone to a multi-use building, everyone's really familiar with it, but a lot of people don't understand the intricacies. So a lot of that is just trying to bring that down to that human level. So that's a huge part of it. Competition is always going to be something that is, it's going to be something that's always going to be kind of a pain point because at the end of the day, we have to really show ourselves and prove ourselves to our customers why they should choose us rather than, X, Y, or Z, and really have that differentiator. So with that, it's really making sure that we have the best assets out there, making sure that our product is top line, and just really making sure that we display ourselves as the authority that everyone knows we are.
Fascinating. And now that you've got this huge library and machine of content production, what are you finding are the most effective means of getting that content out there? Is it paid search? Is it social media? Is it the webinars? Is it email? What are the most useful avenues for you?
It's a little bit of everything. I don't blast our new content out on paid search just because that would be an incredibly expensive endeavor. And we really want to keep our page search slowly to prospects. But with the new content, it's really popular for, our members of our sales team to put those on their LinkedIn or to directly send those to prospects or current customers. We do a lot of email marketing as well. So if people have opted in the fact that they want to hear more from us, then we'll definitely make sure that we send that out. We also, on our website, have a very, very robust resource center. So we always put our content on that resource center. So we have kind of a backlog. You can always go back and revisit. So it's a little bit of everything, just making sure that if anybody from sales or support or client relations, all the way up to the CEO and CFO, making sure that they're pushing out the content as well. So really, any way we can get it out there in a respectable way, we will.
That's interesting. So actually staff and executive will use the content on their own social platforms as well, presumably?
Oh, absolutely. And I think what is fascinating to be a successful marketer and to be successful in software, you have to, one, really believe in what you're marketing and really have a lot of faith in it. And so for us to see that our CEO and CRO and sales is out there pushing on the content that we've written, that really builds that authority up, because everyone here stands by what we do. And it's really cool to see our content out there and being shared by different people. For example, if a sales gentleman puts out one of our content pieces on LinkedIn, someone could very easily hit share, and then someone else could hit share, and then it kind of expands a little bit.
And then do you use that, the white papers, etc., as lead gen? So you they'll have a teaser that will have some headline about a white paper, and then the link will take somebody to a lead gen form.
Yes, sir. So with the white papers, because that is such a valuable asset, it's really a lot of fantastic information that we've put a lot of time and energy into making sure that it is the best resource for prospects. So we will gate that content as a lead generation, but then also you get that direct download and the white paper emailed to you. It's a little bit of a little trade.
Allie, I could sit here and talk to you for ages, actually. I mean, you're incredibly knowledgeable about every possible aspect of digital marketing. But I do want to, but we can't go forever. Let's wrap up if you don't mind. And I have 3 sign-off questions that I ask all of my guests. And I'm afraid I've surprised you with them. Normally, I think I emailed them, but I don't think I did. So I'm going to put you right on the spot with 3 questions. First of all, for somebody starting out syndicating real estate online, they're just starting out, what's the most important thing they should keep in mind?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think the most important thing to keep in mind is that the market, it ebbs and flows. It's going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to change pretty drastically. So it's really just kind of tough it out, stick it out, and be strategic with it.
Okay, thought you were going to say you've got to produce content, but I think that's what sits behind that idea, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Because I think that if people out there who are brand new to syndicating, if they don't really know what they're doing, our content is going to be essentially a crash course in how to be a commercial real estate syndicator. We've got over 2,000 pieces of just blog posts on our website. I just went back through and recoded them for SEO purposes, but we've got a ton of content on there. So just researching it. And with that, you'll understand the challenges, but then you'll also be given resources if you read, thought leadership on how to get around those challenges.
Second question, you personally, what's been the hardest lesson you've learned online?
It's okay to make mistakes. It is completely okay. If like, for example, if I'm doing A/B testing on paid search, and if I really think that option A is going to be, to stand out, just absolutely crush it, and it turns out that I was wrong, it's okay. That's what testing is for.
Right. Yeah, I love that. I know I have clients who get really panicked about the possibility they might send something out that just doesn't get a good reception, or is spelt wrong, or is just of no interest to anybody. Okay, don't worry about it. You can always delete it. It's like
Exactly.
All right. And the final question, Allie, thanks so much, is Your key daily habits online that make you successful online, what are they?
So first and foremost, I always start my day with some form of continuing education. If that's reading, another thought leadership and marketing's blog post, if that's taking an online course, taking a lecture for it, I always want to start my day that way. Because if you can start your day learning something new, then the sky's the limit. You've already done the hardest part of your day. And it's also just being very hyper aware of how other businesses can be taking my user history and try to sell me something. It's really funny when I'm doing research for IMS where a lot of companies are probably using intent data and they're reaching out to me, hey, we noticed that you're researching for, X, Y, and Z. Can we show you our product? And I'm just like, no, thanks. I'm actually just researching you. So it's being aware of that and trying to, anything from blocking my IP address so that I'm not throwing off their metrics. And also just understanding that the internet changes every second. It changes the number of users. There's 2 million new queries each day on Google, so it's going to change. So definitely just being aware of that and making sure that you are I think what I'm trying to say is don't be dumb online. Making sure that you do your research, don't throw off other companies' metrics, and just continuing education, keep learning, keep growing.
Fascinating. Allie, thanks so much for really an incredible conversation. Really a real true pleasure.
Well, I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, good. So let me move this thing out of the way. I've got to pause for a minute so I can find the break in the video.
Hey, that was awesome. Thank you for that. Could you tell I was kind of nervous?
A little bit at the beginning, but you have absolutely no reason to be. I have to say, although you are billed as being, what is it? Director, digital marketing manager. It's fascinating to me because I actually find you to be an extraordinarily good salesperson. Really, really first class. Like the mission and the objective of getting people to sign on to the platform is ever present in everything you said. It's really very interesting.
I mean, so I'm trained as a clinical mental health counselor. So my academic background is clinical psychology and behavioral neuroscience. Then I got my master's in counseling, but I realized that I didn't want to talk to people. I wanted to study their behavior. That's how I kind of got into marketing. And before I work at any company, I want to make sure that I really agree with their business model and their product. And if it is a product, I want to make sure that I'd be willing to suggest it to my grandmother. My grandmother has no need for commercial real estate, but I just really believe in what we do. And it's just really exciting to know that I get to play a small part in that.
Fantastic. Do you mind if I use this supposed to be offline, this little epilogue and just on the recording?
Feel free. Absolutely.
All right, good. That was the amazing Allie Mills, Digital Marketing Manager at IMS, Investor Management Services. Be sure to check out the show notes for today's episode where you'll find links to Allie, to IMS, and to a series of short highlight videos from today's show. You can also access the whiteboard workshop that I put together for you where I walk you through how to build the exact same digital marketing system that we build for clients so you can build one yourself to raise money online for your real estate projects. That's all at gowercrowd.com on the podcast page. All right, that's it. Thanks for listening and thank you, Allie Mills, Digital Marketing Manager at IMS, for being my guest today. It was a real pleasure having you on. That's all for this episode. I'll see you next time. And for now, this is Dr. Adam Gower signing off.